Hi YouTube, it's Angel from AngelSkyeTV, and today I'm interviewing Al Giacalone. We're going to talk to you today about why Al became a vegan recently. Well, I guess not so recently. How long has it been?
It's been, I like to say 2 years, but it's been about a year and a half.
A year and a half?
And it's been, you know, I've been vegetarian. Before that I was vegetarian for...
Since 2008?
Since 2008. And a vegetarian, you know, I didn't consume any cow's milk or eggs, so I was very limited in my animal product intake. I had some cheese and some little bit of goat's milk and some butter, and
yeah, you really liked butter at one point.
Yeah, so I eventually transitioned out of that because I didn't want to participate in the animal products industry at all. Or even if it's not, you know, I don't know, for me, I don't even want to participate in I think it's better the organic farming movement. And you know, but I still I don't think it's sustainable for the future.
Can you elaborate on that? Like, what do you mean? And first of all, what do you mean by why you don't want to participate in the animal product industry? Why?
Well,
for people that don't understand veganism or vegetarianism.
Yeah, well, the animal product industry right now is you know, it's the most significant in terms of what's happening on the planet, right? So it's not sustainable. So all the land that we need to have the cattle on, most of our crops that are being grown, soy product and all that stuff, is being fed to those animals so that they can grow. So it's just it's the leading cause in climate change right now. I read and meat eating is on the rise. So we have countries like India and China who are adopting a more Western diet, which is a more meat-based diet. So it's just like, and when you think of the billions of people, you know, you think of a billion people in India, a billion people in China, and they're going to transition to a meat-eating diet. We already, in North America alone, in the United States alone, I don't know what the exact numbers are, but it's like daily, millions of animals are being killed daily.
I think it's 1.5 billion cows a year.
And that's just cows, and then we have chickens, and we have...
And I think it's 4 to 5% is in North America is vegetarian, vegan.
Yeah, and there is a vegan movement, which is good. You know, the vegan movement is good. I think it's stronger in Europe and North America than in Asian countries right now. So,
what, meat eating or vegetarian?
Vegan vegetarianism
is stronger in Europe than China.
I think, well, the vegan movement specifically, I believe, I'm not, like, this is just speculation, but I believe it's stronger in Europe and North America, and you know, and Asian countries are adopting a more meat-based diet right now.
So you had mentioned that you know, it's not sustainable for the planet, being the rise of meat eating, the amount of food that has to feed the cattle, and the water. I think it's like 6,000 liters for 1 kilogram of meat. 6,000 liters of water, or something methane, like that.
So the methane gases, so it's just air pollution, water usage, land use. So
but then there's also the fact that the animals are treated. So
we have to bulldoze. We have to bulldoze forests so we can grow crops, not to feed human beings, but to feed animals. Plus, we need all this land to have the animals on. It's just ridiculous, man. It's unsustainable. It's not. And you know, even if we go to more organic farming practices, with the rising demand of meat and billions of people going towards that, it's going to become industrial farming anyway. Like, how much land can we have for?
Yes, right. I see your point.
Do you know what I mean? If you think about these, so you have all these organic farms are eventually going to grow because people are going to become aware of industrial farming. So they're going to switch to organic farming. And what's going to happen to the organic farms? They're going to have to expand, or there's going to be several different organic farms. So all the land will be these. It's still going to take up all the land. It's still going to produce all the methane gas. It's just not sustainable, and it's like, and it ends up being like to mass produce. You're going to have like the torturing and suffering of animals, which is happening because it's all about the bottom line, which is making money, right?
A lot of the animals don't see the light of day ever, their whole life. Like, remember we went to see that farm with the kids in the summertime in Cape Breton. I won't name the farm, but anyways, they were producing milk, one of the major milk producers in the Maritimes, and they had cows just locked down by the neck, tail tied to the ceiling. They didn't, and that was their life. There was a 3-week-old calf. The farmer said he would live his whole life like that, just being able to stand up and sit down, stand up and sit down in big long rows of, you know, with all the other cows. They never got to go outside, and they just got milked every day, and that's it. That's their life. I don't know, I didn't feel right about that. Like, buying that product. How can you buy that product and chug back a big thing of milk when you can just go buy almond milk and not contribute to that suffering of that animal? That animal's alive. And, you know, that little calf, I just was like, what? Like, it's 3 weeks old, just born, and it will spend its entire life locked up. Like, it's just crazy. I didn't think Maritimers did that. I thought that was just like a United States or maybe even out west thing. You know, industrial farming. I was under the impression that Maritimers, you know, let their cows out and they grazed in the fields and, you know, they lived the farm life. But that isn't the case anymore. It's all moving towards production and, you know, making more and selling more. And
you know, and I'm not, and for me, you know, organic farmers, like, for now, that's, you know, a back burner thing. The main focus, because it is industrial farms, and I know I've read some media articles and regarding some, you know, animal rights activists that are just barking up the wrong tree. They're going after these organic farmers because they're going to slaughter the cow to feed their family. I was like, you know, stay focused on the bigger issue right now, which is industrial farms. And then if the organic farm starts to become an environmental problem, I'm going to say when, because if people natural transition will be like one to the other, then you got to go face that, right? But you know, in terms of like becoming a vegetarian too, for me, like changing the topic was a spiritual thing, right? And even if you're not doing it intentionally as a spiritual thing, it's subconsciously a spiritual thing. But
elaborate on that. So for some people, that's what I was going to do. Yeah, so like, what does that mean exactly?
So for some people who switch to a vegan vegetarian diet and say they don't proclaim themselves as spirituality, they don't practice yoga or whatever, right? Even if even if they claim to be atheists, okay? If you're doing it for an ethical reason, so stop the suffering animals, you want to, you know, help the planet, that's a spiritual reason. Ethics and spirituality are the same side. They're the two sides of the same coin. There's no like there's been this kind of like separation with ethics and spirituality. It's nonsense. If you're ethical, that means you're feeling something towards what's going on with the animals or the earth. There's this connection happening. It's just ethics means it's just the same thing. You can't. If you're ethical, you're spiritual. Done. You know what I mean? And the paradox is like there's all these. There's a lot of spiritual people, people that claim to be spiritual and practice spiritual practices, but they're eating meat. They're destroying, like they're participating in the destruction of the earth, but they're calling themselves spiritual because I don't know what they practice a little bit of meditation or they you know do some tarot card readings or whatever, and then they don't do the rest of it, right? They don't care about modifying their diet or like to not participate in destruction of other beings, right? And then the people who say they're like not spiritual, right? They don't proclaim spirituality, but they feel, right? They're like, no, I'm not going to participate in this. That's a deeper spirituality than doing a tarot card reading. Do you know what I'm saying? Or even just meditating and that's it, right?
I think just on that topic, I think a lot of people are really not aware of the suffering. I don't know how they're not aware. I mean, it's very public that there's industrial farming. You can just, you know, Google industrial farming and see these horrendous acts of cruelty to animals. But I think there's something in the way we're brought up as human beings that certain animals are meant to be eaten. That's the only purpose they have on earth. And I think I had a fortunate childhood in that I saw animals that were supposed to be eaten, cows, pigs, chickens, as pets. I had them as pets. So for me, I understood that they were just like dogs, just like cats. They had feelings and they were intelligent. You know, I had cows that could fetch, like, you know what I mean? So I think if you're not aware that that animal is intelligent or has feelings or is kind-hearted, you just see them as meat because that's how you're raised. You're just sort of told that that's what you eat and that's what they're for. And so I think it's hard for people to kind of come out of that upbringing, quote-unquote potential brainwashing. They're not given the choice or the knowing that, you know, you don't have to eat meat, because that's another argument. Is a lot of people have told me as a vegetarian, and I've been one since 2009, you have to eat meat. If you don't eat meat, you're gonna get sick. You know, that's a very common belief system that we've been given right from birth. You can't live your life without eating meat. You will get sick if you don't eat meat. You will look like a cancer patient, and this is a quote that somebody put on my Facebook page. You will look like a cancer patient if you remove all dairy products and all animal products and become a vegan. So there's these beliefs, these things that are sort of ingrained in our culture, and I'm talking specifically about North American culture, that we need meat to live, we need it to survive, we need it to thrive even. So I'm not sure that the person, like you had said, like you can't be spiritual if you're eating these things, but I don't totally agree with that. I think that you're right in that you have to become aware.
What I'm saying is that, I'm saying this, if you're, as a spiritual person, and claim to spirituality, there's an awareness.
You have to become more aware, I guess.
Yeah, there's a responsibility to awareness of what's going on in the world, right? What's going on with big business, corporations, what's going on in terms of the environment and all that stuff. It just naturally happens. If you think of all this spiritual, the famous spiritual teachers in the world that are written in history, Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, okay, they were activists. They promoted ethics, right? It was like, there's a bottom line here. You don't destroy, exploit other beings. It's just, that's what happens when you become spiritual. It's like if you're missing that, then you've missed the boat, man. Like, it's like ethics and spirituality go hand in hand.
Now,
and you know, if you're an ethical person, you don't want to call it spiritual. You know, you're actually, for me anyways, the ethical person that doesn't want to, that say they don't have a distaste for the spirituality and religion and all that, for me they're more spirituality and religious than someone that claims that they are spiritual but doesn't practice anything ethical. Do you understand?
I see your point. So what do you think about the argument that human beings are omnivores? That's a huge argument.
If you look at that, okay, we're behaving. Okay, we've adopted an omnivore pattern. And
we've always had an omnivore pattern for the most part. Not all human beings.
But what's happened is that the omnivore pattern is when there is say a famine or a shortage of what we naturally eat, okay, which is a plant-based diet, you're gonna have to go to something extreme and eat freaking carcasses and eat dead bodies. That's essentially what it is. So, you know, but if the food is there, the plant food is there, why would we go after meat? Why would we, if there's a dead carcass on the road and it's rotting, you eat that as a last resort. If there was nothing else and you're freaking starving, that would be the last resort. Or going
a rotting corpus.
Yeah, or going, like, you know how there's animals that eat rotting corpse, like a vulture, right? A vulture will
Vultures do, but most animals don't.
Okay, no,
but eat it a lot.
I'm just saying, just let me finish. Okay. So it's like, so there's a rotting corpse.
Okay.
Or there's an apple. What would you choose?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's.
Interestingly enough, most people
let me finish.
will choose the meat, though.
No, it's not a rotting carcass. No, they won't. So if you see a rotting carcass and a plate of fresh plant food, most people would choose the plant food. You see the rotting carcass, you smell it, you see the maggots, it'd be over, right? Or you see a plate of plant food. Okay, there's a plate of plant food, and there's a big buffalo, live buffalo, They're like, okay, you can eat the plant food right there. It's right there. Go get it, you know. Or you got to go kill that buffalo. And just the effort it takes to take it down.
Mm-hmm.
The effort to take the buffalo down, gut it, take all the guts out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That whole process, you know, like meat eating is easy right now because it's done for them.
That's
someone
true.
else is doing all the dirty work, and it's just at your freaking grocery store. But if you had to do it yourself, you'd be choosing plant food because it's easier to get,
mm-hmm.
and it's less disgusting to produce.
Yes.
You know what? And you know
I
what?
see your point.
And the thing is, it's like if you look at our physiology,
mm-hmm.
look at the current research in anthropology, physiology, you know, our diet history, okay,
mm-hmm.
so archaeology, and everything points to a plant-based diet.
Yep.
Now,
that being said, a lot of the studies that say that we need meat are actually funded by the meat industry.
Yeah, so if you look at
Why is that, do you think?
If you look at the paleo movement or the ketogenic diet movement,
mm-hmm.
and you look at, you know, you go do research on some of the main promoters of that diet. So
mm-hmm.
guys like Jeff Volek and what's a guy, Dr. Finney, I forget his first name, or Lauren Cordain or Lustig. I think they got one of them in the Lustig. You go look at who's funding those guys, and it's meat. It's big animal product industry, man.
Yep.
And look at the way they're warping those studies in order to try to show that you could try to show that ketogenic diet is the best way to function, right? Or being in ketosis is the best way to function is.
So what would you say, so we talked about, okay, why you became a vegan. You became a vegan because you didn't want to participate in destruction of the planet and animal cruelty. Also for your health, to better your health, I would assume.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it is healthier, correct? More people have heart disease and diabetes that eat meat than don't eat meat.
Okay, just if you want to get into all that, look at the work of Dr. Neil Bernard, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, and they have clinical studies of reversing heart disease and type 2 diabetes on a plant-based diet.
It's pretty amazing.
No oil, so there's not even a low-fat, high-carb, whole foods, plant-based diet. So we're not talking like shitty refined carbs. We're not talking putting all these refined vegetable oils in your diet. It's whole plant foods,
mm-hmm.
low fat, high carb, reverse type 2 diabetes, and reverse mm-hmm. heart disease. Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, Dr. Neil Bernard, clinical studies. Show me the clinical studies.
And these aren't funded by anybody.
No, these aren't funded.
Yeah.
These aren't funded by big
mm-hmm.
animal industry. Okay, this is just however they got the funding, like writing grants and this kind of shit.
Yeah.
So,
mm-hmm.
you know, so if you want to look at that, if you want information on that, look at those guys and show me the clinical studies on ketosis diets.
And then we talked about the omnivore diet as well. Like, yes, I didn't get to finish what I wanted to say about that, but just that, of course, we've always been omnivores, but I think it's become skewed a bit where we're leaning more towards just becoming complete carnivores. Like, people barely eat vegetables. Yeah. And I'm just being general here. I know lots of people do eat vegetables and whatever and want to eat more vegetables, but for whatever reason they tend to fill their plates mostly with meat. And I think that even if we've always been omnivores, that argument is bogus. I think that we need to move towards becoming incorporating more plants into our diet and eliminating meat out of our diets just to save the planet. Because I'm sorry, just if you like the taste of meat, that's one thing, but do you like the earth? Like, we need to keep the earth alive. And the way that it's going now, I mean, if people keep eating more meat and more people keep eating more meat, we're not going to have a place to live. So, you know, I think that just even if you could eliminate it, you know, 2-3 days a week, eat a plant-based diet, that would help the earth, correct? Like, yeah. Some people are like, I'll always eat meat. Okay, fine, but can you cut down a bit so my kids can have a life on earth? You know, I think that just there are people that are kind of on the fence that do not want to be completely vegan. It's too difficult. They just like meat. They believe they need it. And I think it's important to not make them feel bad about that choice, but to at least make them aware, you know, you can be vegan once a week, twice a week, 3 days a week. The other thing I wanted to mention too was, what was it? Omnivore. Oh, what's your worst experience being a vegan? Like, a lot of people aren't aware of how you can get attacked as a vegetarian or vegan by meat eaters. So I wanted to know your experience, and then I'll share mine quickly. What's your worst sort of experience with being a vegan?
The thing with being a vegan, or doing anything that's, for that matter, that's counter the pop culture, so counter mainstream culture, is that you're going to get the constant comments and criticisms and you know, digs and all this kind of stuff. So you always gotta, oh, you're gonna eat grass today? Is that all you're gonna eat?
Yeah,
so you always gotta take all these comments. But it's, you know, if you're true to your values, in the end it doesn't matter. Like you can take it, you can start to joke with them, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of times I work at a gym as a personal trainer and as a fitness instructor, and this is what I do. I just joke around with them, and it kind of softens it, and that kind of when you can be, you know, humorous about it, it shows them too how strong you are in your values, that it's not just this floofy thing, and that there's, you know, there's integrity there, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, my in terms of worst experiences, at the beginning of transitioning into vegetarian or veganism, is the most difficult, because that's when you're not used to handling all the criticism. You're going against the grain, right? And so it's like
you're more vulnerable.
You're more vulnerable. You don't know what to eat yet, and you're, you know, you just, there's all these new things. There's all this learning you have to do, right? Research and what to eat and all these things. So that's the most difficult part of it. But once you get into 2, 3, 4 years, you change your it becomes normal. You change your palate, you change what you're eating, you find new base foods to eat. It's just, and then you're fine, right? And
my worst experience is probably, I was in Calgary. This is about 2009. I just became a vegetarian, and I don't know if people are familiar, but Calgary's a pretty pro-meat eating place, at least from my perspective. And I was at a conference, and I was sitting by this lady. I'd never met her in my life. And of course, the food was served, and I had my special food, like a stuffed pepper. And everybody else had dripping bloody steaks all around. And I was like, whatever. Like, I've never cared what other people eat. I'm not sure why people care what I eat or get offended by the fact that I don't eat meat. But she got highly offended by the fact I didn't eat meat. Like, she looked at me, and she kept looking at me, and I could feel her burning, you know, and I was just like, hi, you know, what, it was just like a conference, and I asked her which organization she worked for or whatever, and she was just like, what are you eating? Like, she was so disgusted that I had a stuffed pepper with, I think it was couscous or something like that, and there was whatever, and I was like, oh, you know, it's a stuffed pepper, and she's like, why are you eating that? Why are you eating that? And like, she was so angry, and I was like, because I need something to eat. And she's like, well, why aren't you eating what I'm eating? And I'm like, oh, well, I'm a vegetarian, you know. And she just kind of literally, and this was a table full of people that I didn't know. I was just there, you know, I didn't know anyone. And she was like, oh, you know, rolled her eyes. And I thought, okay, well, that's kind of weird. And I just kept eating, but she wouldn't let up. She's just like, are you going to eat grass for the next meal? And she just kept going. And then I kind of lost my shit a little bit and was like, you know what, that steak you eat is never going to digest. And I just went into the angry vegetarian mode, because I just thought it was weird. It's like, why do you care what I eat? And I try to give people the same respect. It's like, if you want to eat a bunch of meat, fine. But at this point where the planet's dying, I do kind of push it a little bit, where I'm like, just cut back so that, you know, our planet can live longer and there'll be less animal cruelty. And if everybody cut back, I mean, that's way less animal cruelty. The planet's going to be around a lot longer, and sort of like bring more balance. You know, it's out of balance, I think. So that's my kind of, but I've had lots of experiences like that. Not too many in the last few years, but I think it more in the beginning, where you're unsure. You kind of attract those people that are like, you loser, why are you eating non-meat or whatever. But anyways, that's our vegetarian vegan topic for today. You know, if you need any suggestions or help, Al definitely, he has his own Facebook page, Integrative Health Coach Al Giacalone. It's linked through my main page, and I'll put the link below. But you have great dietary tips, and you know, both of us have kind of helped one another, I think, since we became. It makes it easier if you know someone that also knows how to cook different recipes and stuff like that. So
you got to remember too, if just like with changing any behavioral patterns,
takes time.
It takes time, and it takes discipline, and there's always a 2 steps forward, 1 step back phenomena, right? You make a couple, you know, you make some progress, and then you go back and you do what you don't want to do, right? Just like with getting into exercise, changing your diet, or stop drinking, or want to quit smoking cigarettes, you have to stick with it. Right, and don't beat yourself up too much when you backtrack a little bit, because that's the natural process.
It is,
You know, and you don't have to jump in and be a vegan right away. Just like experiment. That's how things switch over anyway. You experiment with different things, and then suddenly, naturally, you just change, and that's it.
Well, thank you for being on the show today, and have a great day.